Welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, founder of Eno Wellness Collective. My wellness journey started with yoga, which led me down the path of exploring healing modalities like meditation, breath work, sound healing, mindset work, and so much more. This exploration inspired my mission to help others find what lights them up. Get comfortable and curious as we learn from experts, teachers, and creators who are lighting up their communities and living an inspired, expansive life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, and I'm so excited to be recording our very first in-person interview of season 2 with a dear friend and client of mine, Jaret Castro. I've been wanting to do this interview for a while, so I'm so happy that we got to do it here in this beautiful space at Salt and Light Home on Guam. And so welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast, Jaret.
Thank you so much, Liv, for having me. And thank you so much to the team for being here.
Yeah, I know I had you on my list for season 2, especially after everything that we've done together, worked together with. And I'm so excited to take people on your wellness journey today and share a little bit behind the scenes of not only, the changes and transitions that you've experienced the past couple years, but also, just what's on your path ahead.
Yeah.
So I remember when you came into the Eno Wellness Collective world, you came to yoga brunch. And since then, I know you've done full moon flow, you've come to the sound baths, you've done a retreat, we've done a private yoga class for your friends and family.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've been doing Rise and Align with me, coaching in 2024. And now you're in my inner circle of alumni clients. So I feel like you've really taken the full journey into the Eno world. So I would love to start off with just, hearing a little bit about how you even found the Eno Wellness community and what's your experience been as you've gone, from an event to a class to coaching and just our journey together over the past few years.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again for having me. I just want to say that this is so fun and the space is like insanely gorgeous here. So I'm like kind of looking around and getting like extremely overstimulated. But how I found the community or like the collective in a sense or you, I did not even realize face to name at the time because the digital presence was so big because it was COVID. And you were heavy on digital and it was like just this larger presence of something. I had no idea what it was. And at first, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if it was like virtual yoga or if you were already starting. There was something that was a little bit more intimate. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect for weight loss. Like I've always been surrounded by weight stuff ever since I was young. So I was like, oh, this is going to be the perfect thing. It's a glam girl behind it. She kind of has like the brand aesthetic and the yoga thing is there too. And then when I did more research, I was like, oh, it's very yoga heavy. And then the coaching thing is there. But when I did more research, I was like, oh, it's not like a meal plan and it's not like this other thing. It's like full on 365. And I was like, I'm 24 back in grad school and like living on my dad's MasterCard right now, like still with a full-time job, but I have no business like getting a life coach right now. So I was like, let's kind of like be honest with ourselves. And that's kind of how I found it. And then I don't know if the yoga brunch was in 2021 or 2022.
It was a few years ago.
I went by myself. It was so random. A friend gifted it to me and it wasn't like this. You go to like Soul Cycle, right? Or like you've been to like a different workout class, like very branded things, like where you definitely feel like you're on your solo, like you're in your solo space and like you almost feel like you're in silos. I went, sat down, so inclusive. Like everyone's having a kiki. We're all chatting. Like I do not know these people. I barely knew anyone. And everyone's just talking. So found the digital presence and then it bled into the first event. And then it was even like when I think about it, it was even so daunting if you really think about it from just like a customer perspective of going by yourself. You had like the most intimate lunch or brunch right after where you're seating yourself, like no one
name cards.
Yeah, like it's happening. And I'm like, I know no one. And everyone was just kind of like chatting and everything. And I was like, it makes sense. Like I'm gonna return. And there was this one piece that like made me constantly return, which was the end of the Yoga Flow towel from the Yeti.
It's a nice touch.
And that's kind of like how I learned about it. And then it bled into this whole like, now we're like nonstop.
Yeah, I know. I've so loved just watching your journey. And
getting to witness the wellness journey, holistic journey, self-care journey that you've been on. And so I've loved having you every step of the way through it. I love that you remember those details too.
Yeah.
So it's landing. It's landing. So I want to take it back first, because one of the big reasons why I even started this podcast, the Illuminated Path, right, was to share people's path of like, how did we get here? And the big thing that I've learned just from interviewing people and having these conversations is just how everyone's path has these kind of highs, lows, then a detour, and then you go somewhere else, right? And just how real that is. And so when you think about wellness for you now, I know it looks different now than maybe it did, 10 years ago, but when can you trace back to when you first started to even think about wellness, think about health, think about like, okay, I'm on my wellness journey. Where do you trace that back to?
I definitely would say within the past, just to acknowledge it, the past anywhere from 8 to 10 years, it's really solidified and gotten a lot stronger and like, oh, this is wellness and blah, 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 blah. Fill in the blanks where you will. But when I think about it, like as a kid, I was just a little menace diva since I was like so young. And these are stories like I don't even realize. It's just when I link things to wellness, right? Like the skincare and the food and maybe it's the working out, but like just all these different tools that you use to feel better. It was ever since I was a kid. Like there's this running joke in my family that like when I was like 4 or 5, I'm sure you've gotten it for Sky, but just like an at-home pool.
Mm-hmm.
Would like lather my head in mousse and like styling something and like fully be lounging in the little blow up pool. Like that's wild as a
Luxury.
kid. Yeah. Like pretending the grocery store bag was like a handbag with the mousse in my hair sitting in the pool. My uncle was like, you've been like this since you were a kid. Like
This is you.
the menace, like diva-ness of it all. But like when I think about it, I'm like, it's wellness. Like I just wanted to feel better and like put some cucumbers on my eyes. But yeah, like when I trace back to it, it was stuff like that. And then, but that's like more of like the kid who maybe found like a bunch of stuff and like was playing with it on the vanity set, which then bled into like me really loving skincare at one point and still. The food stuff was always there and like the wellness stuff was always there. I come from a very traditional family and we've talked about this, but we had like chicken soup for the soul, like in the house, like the book.
Yeah.
We also have access to a ranch where like we have like live animal. Like there's no reason why my tomorrow ass should be like reading Chicken Soup for the Soul. You know what I mean? So I've had these things around, but I've never really noticed it until I'd have conversations like this where I was like, okay, I am pretty delulu when I think about it and I have been surrounded by it for a while. So yeah, the kid stuff, the access to the fun things, and then kind of just like lathering Noxzema at like 8 years old. I have no business doing that. And then wiping it off with like a Stridex pad
At 8?
at like 8 years old. Like they should have put the padlock on the vanity because I was like trying to like do all the stuff. So I think of things like that when I think of the question. So
Yes.
yeah.
I love that. And it's interesting to see like how wellness was introduced and just also how it's evolved. Like there's different stages of like even awareness and what you kind of bring into the circle of wellness, which obviously we talk a lot about in Rise and Align, of just like the whole person of like, oh, it is also relationships. It is also home. It is also all those things. So I know that recently you shared a little bit on your social media about this transformation that you've experienced over the past year plus, including a pretty big weight loss journey, which I know has been a piece of your journey. And so even making that move of like health related to weight loss, but then also like having that holistic view of like, oh, I'm going to bring other pieces of myself into the journey. Tell me a little bit about the where the weight loss journey started for you and like how it was sparked.
Yeah. So in regards to how serious and intense it got was definitely 2021. But I had a weight loss stint in 2015. So that was the first time where I had taken accountability, like as an adult, to make the weight loss like change or like take the approach of health in that space. I did not grow up athletic. So I've always been a little bit heavier, if not heavier, my entire life. And my parents did the best they could. And like my family, I've shared this with you, but like I went to STA clinic growing up. That's a very intense clinic to go to. Like they do believe in wellness plus Western medicine. Like, and my family and I shared the same doctor for a very long time. So I've been surrounded with it, very mindful of these things, but it was such a challenge as a kid. And then in 2015, my parents were just like, we kind of need to get a hold of this. Like we did it as a kid, but like now we have to really take it seriously. I hired a trainer, a few, and I lost an extreme amount of weight. I lost like 50 pounds. And then I gained it back the same year. And from 2015 to now, or probably until earlier this year or 2024, was just years of trying to get the weight back off the 50 pounds that turned into 60-pound weight gain and then 70 pound. And then it was just wild. And I was extremely unhealthy at some point. So to answer the question, weight has always been a thing. We'd always been working towards like switching things out, having Propel, a lean cuisine meal, being mindful of the dinner at a certain time. Like I also grew up in a very geriatric household where like 5:30, 6:30 dinner is like very serious, but we also were having like hamburger helper on other nights. You know what I mean? So that was always there where we tried to kind of control it as a family for me specifically because I was not athletic. And then it wasn't until I was an adult where the trainer kind of came in and we kind of handled it. And then maybe there was a little bit of work with the nutritionist. And then the relapse of like all the weight gain. And then just within the past like 2 to 3 years was me trying to find like the correct trainer, me trying to find like the correct athletic active thing, i.e. yoga to go to, me trying to find like the correct diet to follow and understanding like fads work. And that's okay. Like we're going to have to go through these cleanses and spaces, but then how do I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and like make sure that this is now the diet that I do follow, etc. So it's bled in over like childhood into adulthood, and then that's kind of like how it happened, I guess.
Yeah. And that's, I was something we talk about we've talked about in Rise and Align is just that shift from sometimes something like a challenge or, specific, intensity works with certain goals that you might have, but then for the sustainability, right? For the long term of like, you can't be on a specific, intense diet your whole life or specific, workout challenge your whole life. So how to create that sustainability to make it more of a lifestyle change. And that's something I've witnessed from you in our time together of just watching your health and wellness and self-care practices really become your lifestyle, right? And just be like an identity shift, which, is the biggest piece of change and habit change is how do we not just go from like, I'm doing this because I have this goal this year to like, this is who I am, right? And this is my identity. And there's a kind of a strong why behind that. So with your weight loss journey and your fitness journey and your self-care journey, I know you've also had some big life shifts. Big life shifts happen in the past couple of years. And that's something that I see with all the clients I work with, regardless of where they are in their life, they're in transition of some sort. And, naming whatever that transition is and just watching how, all of us go through different chapters, different seasons, like over and over again. It's a cycle of like rebirth and death, and death. So I would love to hear a little bit about just the shifts and challenges and transitions you've gone through in the past few years and how you've used wellness as sort of your anchor.
Yeah, I don't even like know where to start when I think about it, but for some odd reason, I feel so inclined to share this. When we first started coaching, I remember sharing this one tidbit and the look on your face was like, oh my God, I can't believe you not just said that, but like you responded like, this is a big ask. And I was in LA at the time. And I said, you were like, well, what's making you want to do it? And I said, I want to take a little bit of like my Western practices. Like I've shared this with you. I have a doctor that I follow or follows me, and I have access to really great therapists. And like, I have like a full on like medical situation team where I like lean on it for everything. And then I have like the woo-woo side where it's like, there's a little bit of you and there's a little bit of the other therapist. Like there's just a lot of stuff. And I said, I want to take both and I want to marry it together. And that's like where everything was like, because I have all these changes. And the reason why I wanted to share a reaction was because you and I run in like very small, weak communication ties, right? Like we have like similar people that we acquaint with, etc. And we were going to get like very deep. Like there was just no way we weren't going to go there because I was investing in it and it was the thing. So the changes started, I guess, like, or like embracing it was surrounding like when we kind of dived a little bit deeper. But I was always kind of like handling things like through the team that I have, right? Like a therapist or whatever. But yeah, very significant changes. Life coaching was a huge change. Like being vulnerable and opening up to someone that is like my friend, you know what I mean? And knows my friends. Like, and you also see only the things I post on social. So I was going to talk about these other things too. You know what I mean? Like, and that was a significant one. The loss. I know we joked about it like during life coaching where I was like, I don't know if I'm trying to make the grief thing my brand. But yeah, like you were there during a really pivotal time when I lost my dad. And that was a huge thing too. Wild. Lost my dad, graduated from grad school, got promoted. Takes a lifetime for things like this to kind of happen. And I knew I needed more assistance in other areas, not like someone to come be there and fix the problem with me or like help me fold some clothes, though there are people that are helping me do that. But I needed something to kind of like, I was like, this is too much. It's 3 months. Like how are we doing this? So navigating that was like bringing in people and knowing how to like hire, like, I'm just going to say like hire help to do this. Like, there's so many, you worked at Eventbrite, I'll just say it. And you know, all the quotes like hire for your weakness. There was a lot of weakness during that time. I was like going through a huge career change and then the weight was like drastically falling off because I wanted to run towards something healthier, right? Like I want to transition out of my job and like deal with the grief and like finish grad school healthier, right? Because that's like a big change too. So the weight was coming off and I was like, I don't like, it's all great. Like great things are happening in duality exists like right now, but I need someone here. I need someone that's going to tie the holistic stuff together. And then I need like the trainer who also knows like the flexible stuff. Like I had to hire for my weaknesses at the time because there was so much change happening. So to answer your question, I guess like with the changes, it was about being honest with myself and really listening to the people around me that cared and saying that were just like not concerned in a sense, but they were, you have a lot going on. This is a lot happening right now. What are you doing to like combat it? Because you were a front row like viewer to it. I only became more wild. I only took on more. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to bring in people for this. Like, I can't do this alone. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
And it's a huge, huge call out of like creating your team, right? And bringing in your people. Like, I'm going through something challenging. I'm going to need my team, right? I'm going to need my support in different areas of life and people that can, and even calling in that extra support of like, I'm going to need this person, this person, this person, and my friends and my family moving through grief, change, promotion, shifts at work, and just the whole thing happening in such a short time. So it's really admirable because people don't oftentimes get to a point where they're like an island, right? But you're like, no, let's build the community, which is a huge, huge call out to anyone that is experiencing, those kind of shifts. And one of the big things that I saw from you, which I, wanted just to reflect it to you, is when we first started working together, I remember you had some goals that you were working with around, okay, big questions, life questions. And I said this on one of my workshops earlier this year that there are years that ask questions and there are years that answer. And I feel like last year for you was a lot of big life questions, like what should I do? Where should I be? What should I, where should I go? And you've answered a lot of those questions. And I've been able to witness it from you. And I know a lot of people, a lot of listeners can relate to wanting to do something and sitting in this kind of limbo mode of like, should I do it? Should I not? Should I go? Should I do this? Like for years, right? People can be in that limbo of like, oh, I want to make a change to my career for 10 years. And you made some big action. You took action this past year and still ongoing. So for you, when you think about what moved you from, I think I want to make a change, I'm in the questions, to like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to change. What was that like shift for you? What motivated you to actually move into action?
I'd like to believe that I'm very type A, but I'm also very type B. So like in the advertising world, it's like type A/B tests, like what works for the day.
Yes.
And it was just knowing that like I'm I love a calendar and I love a list, and I'm like, we have to check things off. And like the way I check things off is like I'm at the grocery store. These life goals are not grocery store lists like things. So it's wild. So to answer the question, it really is a listicle. And it really is checking things off intentionally. And to shift into action, it was just realizing like I have this list. I want to complete it. So like what am I gonna do? Like what am I gonna do and how am I gonna get there? And it's easy for me to like sit here and just be like, oh yeah, I wanted to do it, so I did it. Of course, it's like just the reality of it. But it also comes from like having a very like inclusive, progressive community of like family members and friends who like just believe in my delusion, or they actually don't most of the time. But then when they see it, they're like, holy mac, you are actually a monster. But yeah, so what shifted was it was the new year. We started life coaching right in like March or April. It was spring break when we were interviewing. And it was time. It was time for me to like amp it up. Like the goals were already there. I had done my stuff. I made my list of things that I want to do for the year. And it was just time to put things into action. So I'll open it up, right? Because we're playing lightly. So what Liv's talking about is I had a few things on the list. Am I going to quit my job? Am I going to move? And I want to say it was like, yeah, stuff surrounding like food and weight loss. Like, so it was those three things. Like I wanted to solidify these plans. Am I going to quit my job? It was probably the most shocking thing at the first time we brought it up because we've worked together through like our comm ties of partnerships and things like that. And I loved what I did. I still do. I still love the space. I still love the industry. But then as we talked about it week after week, you were like, oh, it makes sense. Like you don't hate it. Like you just wanted to make a change. And the action was now me doing a lot of introspection. How do I feel today? What am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? And when I say, why am I doing this? I'm not talking about like going to work and doing the job. It was my coping mechanisms, my wellness practices. Like, why am I so intense with needing to work out all the time? Why am I so intense with like fixating over this diet? Why am I so intense with wanting to do this thing? When the healthy stuff started to become an outlet for me to cope with decisions, that's when I was like, it's not the job, it's not the people, it's you. Like, you have to be honest about that. Like, there's a day everyone wants to go and like hit the mat or whatever they do in the athletic world of like blowing off some steam. But then when you start fixating on it and you're just only thinking of a downward dog while you're sitting at your desk, like for the resting pose, maybe we have to figure things out like solo. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the thing. So there's that to answer the question about leaving my job. There was never this one way, shape, or form that was like, yep, let's put it into plan. It was like, I have this thought. It's not just an emotion. But it made sense, right? Like I was finishing grad school the same year, and I started at my job as a baby. I was like 23. So it just made sense. Like we're capping at year 5. I had just I eventually got promoted. I was like, it makes sense to leave. So the action was being mindful of it now. So if I do want to leave, do I follow my upbringing of tendencies of you should never leave until you have something secure, right? Like I'm sure you grew up in the same household of things. And it was like, what tools am I now going to put into place for my junior sabbatical? What tools am I now going to put into place for leaving because I want to leave gracefully, not because I need to leave or because it's the worst thing. Like just wanted to grow. Like I was like leaving the nest, right, as a kid. So there's that question of the leaving the job stuff and how I transitioned out of that. The moving thing has been an issue since I was like 21. Was supposed to go to school, left, and was gonna tour one. Was like, I can't. I like cried. I like had to come home and went to the first day of like school back here. I was like a junior already, and one of my friends looked at me. She was like, "You're not supposed to be enrolled." I was like, "Let's not talk about it right now." So the moving thing will always kind of be there because I love living here. My family's here. My friends are here, but then I also have my lovely family of people and family friends that live away. So it's always going to teeter and totter there. But the weight loss stuff, the reality was I was already reaching the finish line of like the 100-pound weight loss, right? I had known that I had gained so much weight and I needed to put things into action. And I realized that I was struggling with diet. I was kind of struggling with the workout stuff. I was being really bratty surrounding it. And I was like, I just need to have a better relationship with this because the reality is that this is going to follow me forever. I'm like 5'9". You know what I mean? I'm not like the most tall person, but like I have a larger build. I'm just a little bit bigger in general naturally. So I had to kind of understand like, how do I quote unquote fall in love with this journey? How do I just embrace it? How do I make it a lifestyle? All the buzzwords right now. And that's where like I kind of brought you in, right? Because it was just about like, what do I do? How do I have all these tools? Like, how do we like kind of bring it together? So that's what kind of kicked things into gear.
Big changes,
Yeah.
big shifts. And we've talked a lot about like themes throughout the program and themes throughout working together of themes and lessons that keep coming back in different ways. You touched on it earlier, but we've talked a lot about duality and just holding space for both, like having it be hard and also having it be beautiful at the same time. And just that experience of duality. And as we make shifts and as we make, life transitions, I think we've also talked about the theme. I love that when you come to yoga, you take some of the things that I say and you apply them to like your life. So knowing when to take it up or down a notch, right? Knowing like when to listen, honoring your body, listening to your intuition. So I've seen your wellness journey really deepen in the past, at least the time that I've known you, of going from the kind of, health, food, fitness, self-care side to like really your beliefs and your relationships and even your home. I know that home has been a big thing that we've talked about. And I love that we're sitting in this like gorgeous place that we get to think about health really as the whole person, to make it sustainable, to make it enjoyable, right? And to infuse that bit of joy into wellness, which can be quite like strict discipline. We have to do the things every day, right? And how do we bring it kind of full circle? So I witnessed that with you a lot. I would love to know for you a big theme. I know I probably said some of it, but what's been a theme for you in coaching? Like what's been a big takeaway that you're like, I'm going to take this and really have it like integrate it as you move into the next chapter?
Definitely the like home food thing, like that will always be a thing because it bleeds into the relationships. And I think that's a bold statement to say it so generally, but it does for me. Like I almost don't leave my house. Like it's unless I have to go to work. And it doesn't help that like my house is like the hub for my family and my friends as well. Like I have people over a lot. Vice versa, my aunt lives so close. So the topic and the theme of home and food or like that wellness space will bleed into my relationships and I'm accepted it just will. And yeah, I think it just does because now or I pick those two to focus on for the theme because like work out at home and I have people over and my aunt lives 2 seconds away. So like we're just back and forth. My brother and I like he hubs out like with his family, like they live in a different part of the island, but we use the space as like ours. So the home theme will always be there. The food thing will always be there because cooking really does happen. And that's like my thing. So I guess, yeah, that to answer the question, that's really the topic or the theme that I really hold dearly when it comes to coaching and that I really focus on, I guess, a lot. I like sent you a voice note a few months ago and I was like, yeah, I'm just like organizing my closet right now, but like I'm thinking of accepting this job and like I don't really know about the set. Like talking about really big things like while I'm doing like it just makes sense. So
your voice notes have really been such a treat to listen to throughout the whole program. I also loved, I think one of our first Rise in the Line calls you joined from like you're a treadmill, walking on a treadmill. I was like, I love the energy that you're at home, that you're bringing into this space and bringing into, that you just bring into the Wellness community and spaces. And, one thing, I have a few last questions for you, but one thing I did want to touch on because when I moved back home to Guam, started Wellness Collective, a lot of it was, people's first yoga class, people's first sound bath, people's first retreat. And so the community has, grown and evolved over the past 5 years that, we're ready to go deeper. There's more stuff coming that we're, the people that have been following me and coming to these events for a while are ready to kind of, start to explore. I do notice majority of my events are women, and you have been the first man to come to the retreat. First man that's been in my coaching
I
program.
didn't even know this. Okay.
You always bring friends with you to this full moon flow, and I always super appreciate that because I'm like, wow, the whole back row is all men today, you know? And it's like, I really love to see that. And I think opening that conversation up more to like, health and yoga, not just being, okay, the stretchy pants and the flexibility, that men can come into these spaces and it can be impactful for them. So I just wanted to just know from your perspective, right? Oftentimes being or bringing people into the mix where, if primarily as females at the event, I would love to know what your experience has been, or if you have any advice for men on Guam who maybe are curious but don't know if they should come to an event or coaching.
I never really thought of it that way. Because it feels that inclusive.
Yeah.
Just you know what I mean? Like one time I was at the full moon flow. This is probably the day I didn't bring a +1. Tim was there. And then I was right next to like
Ben's always there.
Ben.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess because like it doesn't feel that way. But then also now that I think about it, yeah, I was the only guy at the retreat or like all these other things, but I didn't really notice it until you brought it up right now. But I guess the question was like advice or like the experience, or maybe I'll go into like why I do bring the boys a lot. I have 2 best friends. One works in mental health awareness, and then another one is like works in tax. Very intense jobs. Okay, like very intense jobs. And then there's me. Like, what Pantone color are we gonna make the ad today? Like, let's talk about the copy. You know what I mean? And it's a very stressful job too, and it comes with its colors. And project management is not easy. But I realized like when I go to yoga, like especially the Monday routine, the quote at the end, the stretching, the resting pose when it finally feels like a resting pose and it doesn't feel like a workout, it helps so much. And clearly I chat a lot and clearly I do not keep still. But it's the one space that does. And it helps me like kind of get myself together, especially on a Monday. And knowing I can always go back to it and it goes wherever I go. So to round like table about the men that I bring, or maybe they like why I believe they should come. It helped me. Like it helped me in my career. It helped me with like weight loss. It helped me with just like simmering down. And I was like, why wouldn't I bring my guy pals? You know what I mean? Like the straightest of them all. You know what I mean? And like one of them is like a musclehead, like loves to go to the gym and like does his thing. But it was like after a really tough day or after like a really tough week, like who wouldn't want to stretch out? Like when you're talking about like wringing out the body or like wringing out the day, I'm like, yeah, like literally wringing out the day. It feels real. And it could also be that I'm just like always in my brain. I watched a lot of like Barney and Friends as a kid. So I'm like imagining me wringing out my problems, like holding the pose, but like it's real. Like it's so real and the essence is there. So when I would bring them, and I'd hope that it has the same impact, that's why it was about like we all work in these like very high performing spaces, these really taxing jobs we live very full lives with our families and our friends. Like, why wouldn't I bring guys to? I feel like guys, if anything, should be going a lot more and wringing it out. So that's kind of like my perspective and vibe on it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Guam's just catching up. When I go out to, travel, I go to LA or Amsterdam or even Bali, the classes and the events are definitely a more balanced. Sometimes there's even more men in there than women. And so I'm excited to see the shift and evolution here on Guam. And so I always appreciate you bringing friends and people into the mix of just expanding the net a little bit for the INA community. So one of the questions that I always ask, it's my closing conversation question for every podcast I've ever done. Now we're in the 20s, is around what's lighting you up. And as you know, INA means to illuminate, to shine a light. And I am so excited for what's to come with you. I'm like, you need your own podcast. So I feel like when you start your podcast, I will gladly be a guest on it.
Of course.
But would love to know what's on your path ahead, what's lighting you up these days, and kind of what's next for you in this next chapter.
Yeah, I think right now it really is just intentionally like leaning into my career a lot more. Before it was just like, and I have to do this, and this is the plan, and I need to do like very much y equals mx plus b. Like there was an equation and it needed to be met and solved. right now, it's just intentionally leaning into the fact that I've solved the variables, right? Like at least what I'd like to believe. I do not think I've arrived in any way, shape, or form. But to the list that I've created for myself and I've agreed to, in some way, shape, or form, I have, right? Like I've crossed this off. I've done this thing. Like, what do I need to do? And it was with you where you're like, what's like on the goal thing? And I was like, or I don't know if you did say, you're like, what if you just stop?
No vision board.
Yeah, or something like that. And I was like, no, what if I do? And I was like, does that mean like I'm a do nothing like person who's like just not going to do anything? But I was like, no, what if I just look at this toolbox of all these things that I have and I've accumulated holistically, professionally, academically, and why don't I start using it? Like it's there for a reason. So right now that signed up is to intentionally like use the skill set, my discipline, at the end of the day, deep down, I'm a nerdy little academic who like loves to research. I use like the EBSCO library to like look up certain things like weekly because I like to validate like things. So to lean into that and possibly go back to grad school, not even possibly, let's just own it.
Yeah.
I'm going back to grad school.
Yeah.
It's happening. And then to lean into my career and like really foster and like indulge in that and celebrate it. Like I think less accolade, like I want to do this and I want to make this much money and I want this title, and more of like I have all of these great experiences and all of these tools and these people around me. How do I just own the space I'm in right now? So that's kind of what's happening. The creative side will always be there. I have that spark. But the reality is it's not easy. This is not easy to do. It's not easy to sit down and edit. It's not easy to go and like map out the vibe and like, how are we going to make the aesthetic kind of come to life? That is a full-on production. And ideally, I would love to do it. It looks like it could happen this year and I do have plans for it. But the reality is like, I have to work, like for me, like the reality is I like shoes and bags and stuff and like they have to be paid for. And I don't know if I can fully commit to it, because to commit to that space for me is, me, I'm like neurotic and like, I'm like, it's all in nothing, or it's like just nothing or all in. So I don't really know what the creative space kind of looks for me right now. I think I'm going to keep it just really niche with what I'm doing. But yeah, career, leaning into the academic stuff again and just kind of celebrating that. It's kind of what's happening.
Well, I am celebrating you. It's honest. It's first of all, it's your birthday today, which is incredible, and I love to kick off like this next journey around the sun with you, and just to witness you and to just watch you bloom. And I really appreciate you being here and being in these spaces, and I'm so excited to see what's next for you. So I just want to thank you for giving us the time. Shout out to Salt and Light for hosting us here. It's
so beautiful,
gorgeous space for us to be here. So thanks for being here, and
thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review, and don't forget to subscribe. Learn more at innowellnesscollective.com and connect with us on Instagram at innowellnesscollective.